The area that I work in and that I'm in charge of, or guys that report to me, are the coaching. Okay, so the coaches, and then you have your high performance department, your strength and conditioning, your sports science, and you have your development, the coaches and the people involved with that as well. And so that's what we would call football performance. And so my role there is to give them every opportunity to be the best they can. So I do value training time to look at particular individuals, encourage people to read about a whole range of situations. So that's all coaching. That's all part of preparation for me. I've had a reasonable amount of experience in high performance sport, both in highly successful environments as well as some really poor environments. So I'm really confident in the vision I have in my head about what creates success. A big part of my role is to question, to observe, to mentor, to ask the question why. Why are you doing that? There are times when you want to jump in and do it yourself. And as I just said, my key role is to enable people to grow and to develop, to give them more autonomy and a big paddock to work and display the way they want to do things. On a daily basis, your biggest challenge is, rather than do it yourself or put your strong opinion on what should happen, is just to ask questions. So you allow people to grow and make good decisions. And so quite often I've actually got to check myself. No, don't tell them what you think I would do. I'm more interested in asking why you do that, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, when you're going to do it. And so we actually get people to think about what's going on. I want you to write 2 words up on the board for me. Words there. Yeah, how and why. That's the critical information. You've got to walk out of the meeting, you've actually got to know whether they understand what you're talking about. All right, so the challenge of your coach is to go from complex to simple. It's an interesting dynamic here because, in Simon Goodwin, I coached Simon. He was captain of Crows when I was a senior coach there, and I had, same with Nathan Bassett. So I have a strong association, with those two players, those two coaches in particular. I find it a really respectful relationship. Am I a father figure to those? I mean, I've coached them, I've seen them grow up, and so I'm now enjoying watching them go into an area of coaching, which I know is a passion for those guys. And then there's the dynamics between Mark Thompson and myself, and so, hopefully, I play a role there with Mark. I mean, he's a very experienced senior coach, highly successful, comes out of a well-recognised culture. So, selfishly, I'm learning a lot, from his experiences, and hopefully there's situations there where, without being overbearing, he can come to me for whenever he needs to. When you reflect back on your life and you say who are the most influential people in your life, most of them might have been football coaches, coaches. To my advantage, by chance, I was actually able to come in contact with a guy called Charlie Walsh, who became the first full-time coach at the South Australian Sports Institute. So I was the first full-time sports scientist. He was the first time full-time coach. So it made sense to put these two guys together, and it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life.
Well, Neil was actually thrust upon me. I didn't have a choice about that, but you can be sure if he didn't fit, then he would have gone very, really quickly, because in our program, just like any really successful team, there's no room for people that don't fit. So a coach is only as good as the staff and people around you, and that's why I was particularly lucky that I got Neil. He's made me look much older than what I am, but I guess you've got to take the good with the bad.
In terms of the psychology of a winning program, the biggest influence has been to Charlie Walsh in terms of knowing what wins on the international level stage.
Neil was quite extraordinary, and what I got a product that not only was he highly skilled in the area of sports physiology, but also he had a very good feel about sport itself and about what competitors need to be like.
When I was in that environment, and I was in that environment for 15 years, It was developing my philosophy on things that are so important to high performance of teams. You know, I couldn't have there's not one university in the world I could have gone to give me those answers, but spending 15 years with a Charlie Walsh, where he demonstrated what a poor environment looks like to now what a world-class environment looks like, and his ability to change that. I spent 15 years at the University of Charlie Walsh, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. This is the best competition in the world. AFL is the best competition in the world. And therefore, I have to use my experience about what do the best elite sporting competitions in the world look like. In my previous life was in cycling. And I was able to see cycling in Australia go from probably the worst nation in the world to the best nation in the world. So we're now in an AFL environment in the best competition in the world. So it's about the psychology of the program. It's about attention to detail. It's about standards, expectations, players and coaches having no limitations, high expectations. It's about are we using feedback to the maximum so that we can improve and be ahead of the game. It's about trying to maximise performance in this environment, because every AFL club would say they've actually got a high performance environment. What I'm interested in is whether it's functional. Played my first game in Adelaide Oval, so I mean that's individually got a great memory for me. I'm a country boy in South Australia, so classically in the country you play all sport, but it was very clear very early in my life as a 6 or 7 year old I just had this unbelievable desire to play league footy in Adelaide, like in the big smoke. And at about 9 or 10 I knew I was going to make it. I just had that much will and desire that I was going to make it happen. But then I eventually got recruited to a club in Adelaide called Norwood, the Norwood Football Club. They had a boarding house for footballers. They used to, because back then you didn't have your zone, so you could recruit from anywhere. But there were about 22 of us, and I was a 13. The next oldest was 17 or 18, so I had to grow up pretty quick. But it was a fantastic environment, and so really my career started with the Norwood Footy Club in terms of SANFL footy. As a player, I used to love to prepare and train. I used to love training. I couldn't get enough training, probably early in my career to a detrimental effect. But hopefully, as my career unfolded, and the guys who played with me probably saw me as a giver, as a good teammate, and probably as a teammate that helped make them better players. In my own mind, whatever I left in terms of performance and a perception, I'm saying I gave everything, okay? I'm like the old tube of toothpaste that you roll up and you get that last little bit out. That's it. What you see, I'm not sitting there saying I could have done it a bit better here. I gave it everything I had. And so whatever perception that left, I'm saying that's it. I couldn't have changed it. To me, what happens on a weekend, on the game day, is, well, it's a form of feedback of how well you're preparing and developing. On the field is really about, so I can hear the way messages are delivered from the coaches, their interaction with the playing group, about whether there's clarity there, whether it's about, is it along the lines that we've discussed as coaches. Simon Goodwin is sort of director, he's sort of taken charge of training and a preparation of it. So is it unfolding the way we planned? Is there confusion in the playing group? Are we giving mixed messages? So it's more about observing the coaches rather than taking control. Every now and again the coaches give me a little job to do and I love it. I love it. I tend not to listen to what's happening in the box, so I can give an unbiased point of view for what I'm seeing if I need to, or if I'm asked to. It's more for me to keep some form of control on the bench on match day, because that can become quite emotional, with support staff for all the right reasons, but. We ask our players to keep a degree of control and clarity about what they're doing, and as support staff and coaches, we're no different. So we've just got to make sure that operates in a well-organised manner, and also just to keep the players, when they come off, I guess I need to make a judgment call on, do I talk to this player, do I not talk to them, and I use my experience there. But the main thing is to keep them calm but competitive. Calm but competitive. Because in this game, if you lose your competitive spirit, you've got no hope, irrespective of the state of the game. The vision I have for the Essendon Footy Club is to be, in terms of the footy department, on the side that I work with in performance, to be highly world-class in its functionality, the way it functions. And what that means is that it gains a reputation that when people come to Essendon, there's an understanding that they will grow and they will maximise what they're able to do. So if they come in as coaches, they come to Essendon as coaches, is that they know they will get great education and will nearly, will be able to be the best coach they can possibly can. Players will have a reputation, if you get recruited to Essendon to play, that they will maximise your playing ability and they will treat you with respect, and you'll grow as a person, and when you exit the game, you'll exit with dignity and you'll have a plan in place about life after footy. That people outside of Essendon will say, how do they do that? How can we get involved with Essendon? Now, we're a long way away from that. We're a long way away from that vision at the moment, but that's, if you ask me what my vision was, is that's what it would be, and that's what we're talking about there is world class. Okay, world class, and so people from overseas want to come to the Essendon Footy Club and find out, how do you do that? And once you get that, then you start the motor.